guys, it's Dreamer here, and today we are back with some more Buried. We're on Chapter 4, Part 2. Because of the way I ended last episode, I had to do after recorded, edited, and I don't even know what I'm trying to say. An intro that didn't happen during the initial recording. That's what I'm trying to say. And yes, my hair is different. I will explain it in Sunday's vlog. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to the video. So, my thoughts are, while the shotgun is, as he says, more powerful, the handgun would be more precise and hold more ammo. We wouldn't have to reload as often. The rounds wouldn't be as difficult to carry either. Shotgun shells are bigger than... See, I think Dennis has a shotgun, and then Amy took a 9mm. So I can't even go based off of that. Fuck. I think... While the handgun would hold more ammo, the shotgun is more powerful. I think that's what we should go with. You took the shotgun. I take the shotgun, surprised at how heavy it feels. Ah, crap. But also invigorated by its weight. There are more creatures coming, as many as a dozen. They are floating down the hall, quickly. Their tentacles slithering. The way their lights seem to mingle together is almost beautiful. "Close the door!" I yell at Amy. She dashes to another terminal mounted on the inside of the hangar doors and tries desperately to close them. "It's not working," she says, with tears in her eyes. "This terminal is disabled." Dennis looks through the open doors, readying himself to shoot the first monster. I lost my train of thought. Dennis looks through the open doors, readying himself to shoot the first monster that nears us. Should we try to slow a few down or just run for it? He asks, his gun at the ready. Again with the whole conserving ammo, let's make a run for it. Good idea, says Amy. With that, we turn around and sprint out onto the hangar floor. Interesting. What's we got now? The room is enormous, so large to call it a room seems silly. A large concrete floor stretches out below an expansive loft ceiling. The area is mostly empty except for one side, which has rows and rows of metal barrels. Back on the far wall is a lit area that seems to expose more rooms, labs, and machinery. Also in the rear of the hangar, I can see some kind of chamber or control center. Dennis and I follow Amy across the hangar floor. Behind us, a series of rough, slithering sounds tells us the creatures have made their way into the hangar. From somewhere up ahead, a loud buzzing noise sounds out. It reminds me of the slight buzzing noise I'd heard in the forest. The noise that I've tried to avoid. I look ahead to see that in the far back of the hangar, the bright red light is flashing. There is a small hatch or door below the light. The hatch is open, and I can see a shape inside it. I can barely make out the figure of a man standing there, holding an industrial microphone. And as soon as I see him, I hear his huge amplified voice. It barrels down over the intercom system, and he sounds pissed. "I don't know who the hell you are," he says, "but this is a government facility on lockdown, and there are protocols, so shit!" God damn it. They are making their way through the hangar doors. There are about 20 feet behind us, and the creatures. I act instinctively, squeezing off 2 shots of the shotgun. The first sprays low, hitting the floor and causing a shower of sparks. It's a good thing that a shotgun is quite forgiving. Amy and Dennis take the AQ and start firing as well. The floor frickin' frack. The alarm goes shrieking behind us, and then I turn to... God damn it. I'm sorry, I read so slow. I hit the ground hard. Can I? Oh, I can scroll up. They are making their way through the hangar. They are about 20 feet between us. There are about 20 feet between us and the creatures. I act instinctively, squeezing off 2 shots with the shotgun. The first sprays low, hitting the floor and causing a shower of sparks, but the second shot causes one monster to jerk backwards. It's a good thing that a shotgun is quite forgiving. Amy and Dennis take the cue and start firing as well. The floor becomes littered with swirling white fluids from the wounded creatures' bodies. But they are not slowing down. The alarm keeps shrieking behind us, and when I turn to see if anything has changed back there, I trip over my feet. I hit the ground hard in an almost comic fashion, slide several feet across the floor. From the ground, I see that we have managed to turn back 4 of them, but I also see that my estimate of a dozen is off. There are at least 20 of them. Their sick, dim light, sinister and glooming. Their appendages seem to bind together as they come forward. My only hope of survival is that the man in the far doorway has somehow shut that hangar door. My only hope for survival is that the man in the far doorway has somehow shuts that hangar door. His voice comes blaring over the intercom again, broken by the booming noise of the gunfire that we are laying down. Run here, towards the isolation chamber. I'm not sure how much time we have. I realize that I can sprint ahead of Amy and Dennis, or I can hang back and give them cover. I think we're gonna go ahead and keep shooting to cover the others. I think that's what we're gonna go with. Yeah, we're gonna do... I feel like the keep shooting to cover the others would be the best option. So that's what we're gonna go with. Go inside where the guy is, I say. I'll make sure we don't have any of those things right on our tails. I'll hold him back for a while. I know it sounds macho, but it also feels like the right thing to do. I have to at least try to give us some kind of chance for escape. So as Amy and Dennis run through the doors, I blast at the next thing that I see moving. All I get for my troubles is that static-like hiss and a high-pitched whistling noise. I'm able to beat them back a bit, forcing them to scatter. Each flicker of light is a small victory. If nothing else, I'm buying Amy and Dennis time. When I'm certain there is nothing more I can do, I turn and run. I hustle quickly, catching up to Amy and Dennis, who stop to turn to provide me with cover fire. There, Amy says, pointing to the small door where the man was standing earlier. The swarm is less than 15 feet away now, so furious that they are pushing through one another to get to us. I fire, still not quite used to the kick of the shotgun. I aim for the core of one, but the shot hits low. Still, it knocks the bastard back, giving me time to readjust. Yeah. We are in the middle of the hangar floor now, with the isolation chamber ahead and the monsters behind. Beside me, Dennis also fires. The kick of the gun jolts him, probably a result of being weakened from the blood loss. His shot lands true, though, causing a jerking stumble and a flickering of its lights. We're almost in, Amy yells, and as we get close to the door. We're almost in, Amy yells, as we get close to the door we hope will save us. Dash inside, tell Dennis and Amy to go first. As per previous action, Dennis and Amy go first. Get inside, I tell Amy and Dennis, motioning for them to get moving with my gun. I open the door and give Dennis a push towards it. He resists, more eager to try taking down another of the beasts before he makes to safety, but he eventually gives in. I wait a beat to make sure Amy is inside too. I fire off a few rounds on the creatures that are still headed for us, hoping to slow them down. When Amy and Dennis clear the floor, I nearly dash inside, but then feel something hot seep into my back. Roger! Dennis yells. The pain in my back is so immense that I barely notice the fact that I'm being lifted from the floor. I look down to see one of the creatures is using its flowing arms to grab me by my waist, its tentacles wrapping around me. It lifts me into the air as if presenting me as a trophy to its friends. I can't angle the shotgun to fire off a round, so I bring the shock of it down the monster's tentacles' smooth body. It's like striking at fog. My attack has very little effect. As it continues to hoist me up, screeching its approval, Dennis comes back out of the room and fires off a shot. The bullet catches the monster on the underside of its core, sending it backwards and causing it to freeze for a moment. It releases me and I hit the ground, dropping my gun and again finding myself unable to breathe. I feel slightly dizzy, but that fades when I see Dennis still standing outside the door. He's firing into the beast like a madman and doesn't see the one to his left coming in along the edge of the wall. Dennis, look out or push him out of the way. We're going to push him out of the way, of course. I try to dash towards Dennis to push him out of the way, but there's not enough time. Shit. I should have yelled. The creature jerks out of existence and then reappears right behind him. By the time Dennis turns to see the creature coming, he's already drawn several of its appendages back to strike. Dennis tries to raise his gun, but it's knocked by one of the tentacles. The second tentacle strikes Dennis in the spine strikes and Dennis is spun around and thrown off balance by the attack. Dennis catches himself before falling. A third tentacle wraps around Dennis's forearm and I can see it squeezing tightening intensity. The tip of the appendage passes clean through his hand, its blood-soaked tip poking out through his palm. Dennis's face grimaces with pain as he tries to wrench his arm free, but the creature's tentacle has his hand spread like a nail through wood. In a moment of dark clarity, I realize that I can free him with a clean shot at the monster's tentacles, but it will likely mean blowing Dennis's hand off. Dennis, I yell over the creature's high-pitched sonic scream. Can you get free? I have a shot. Maybe. No, Dennis gasps as the creature tosses him around by his hand like a puppet. Don't shoot. I can get free. I can't tell if he's right, but the other monsters are starting to encircle him. I need to act fast. I kind of want to trust him. Kind of. I mean, God, it doesn't look good. But maybe he knows something that we don't know and we'll trust him. You waited to see if Dennis could get free. Dennis is fighting hard, doing everything he can to bring the gun around with his good hand. He's screaming as he tries to tear his hand away, screaming in both fury and desperation. This only seems to anger the creature, which then swats Dennis with another of its tentacles, opening a deep gash across his cheek. His skin peels back and his eyes go wide with shock. The creature drops him to the ground as if playing with him, and then the floor and space around Dennis seems to warp. The bottom quarter of his body seems to disappear before I realize it's been merged with the floor. And at that moment, I know it's over. Shit. Should have shot it. 3 others swarm him, surrounding what remains of the fallen body. I don't even hear Dennis scream. There's just a frenzy of crackling, sickening wail sounds. After that, there is nothing. Fury, sorrow, and absolute rage surge through my heart. I grab my gun as the remaining beasts come towards me. They'll kill me, but I don't care. This is war. As far as I'm concerned, this is... Amy grabs me from behind and pulls me hard inside. I try fighting her off, but she's persistent. Part of my mind knows she's right. Don't be an idiot, she yells at me. She practically throws me through the doorway. As I fall, I hear her fire off 2 shots before slamming the door closed behind her. I watch blurrily as she punches a few buttons in the control pad on the wall. This is followed by a mechanic click as the door locks. And yeah, we are safe in the chamber, but Dennis is gone. Well, clearly I made some mistakes there. I'm sorry, Dennis. Alright, might as well continue with the story. What have we now? We are now inside a large reinforced chamber of sorts, almost like the inside of a submarine. Near us is the door, shut tight. Far away from us along the black wall are all sorts of controlled monitors. It seems clear that this metal door is impenetrable, at least to them. I'm fairly sure that they aren't getting in. Dennis, I say. I'm sorry, Amy says, and I'm sorry for pulling you back, but you were walking to your death out there. I know, I say, but it doesn't make it any easier. I couldn't quite see, but it looked like you may have had a shot. You didn't. Why didn't you take it? You told me not to. Roger, Amy says. My God, I'm sorry. He's dead. I'm sorry, I say, hoping that speaking the words will help me understand what just happened. I came through all of this to try and save him, and he's dead. How did this happen? Why did I listen to him? Out of nowhere, an image of Dennis pumping his fist after winning a game of pool pops into my head. I can't reconcile that happy image with what I just saw. I feel myself zoning out, wanting to give up, but I'm stubborn. And the fact that Dennis is dead is a cruel motivator. I have to get out of here, I say. What I don't say is that I have to get out of here so all of this trouble will have been worth something. We are interrupted by a man's voice booming behind us. Just what the hell do you think you're doing? The man roars. He's an older man who seems to exude power and authority, but he also looks tired and scared. I assume this is Barksdale. He walks over to us from the back recess of the chamber. We didn't have a choice, Amy responds. We had to... Did you override the locks in the hangar doors? Barksdale demands. Yes, I did, but we had to... Do you have any idea what you could have done? Amy doesn't answer right away. She is furious, but she is also scared and visibly exhausted. We clearly know who it is, but let's go ahead and speak up anyway. Try and get the attention off of Amy. I address my question to Amy, preferring to get my info from her rather than whoever this is. The man doesn't break eye contact with Amy. Colonel Barksdale. He runs the place, she says, annoyed. Look, Barksdale, Barksdale. Look, Barksdale, she says, you can breathe me and lecture me all you can berate me and lecture me all you want when this mess is over. But right now I have a wounded civilian here, and as you can see, several entities trying to get into this room. So if you could actually do something something instead of sitting on your throne and yelling at me, that would be great. Well, she's getting a little sassy. I am impressed by her guts and wonder if there is some sort of beef between the two of them. Surely working in a place like this could cause some stress and tension between people. As we wait, I notice a small peephole in the door. I go to it and look out to the things. They're still looking for a way in, but finding no success. I wonder if they can sense or somehow see me through the door. Let's do nothing. Flipping the birds is going to do absolutely nothing. It's pointless. I still don't understand what these things are capable of, and trying to figure it out hurts my head, so I decide to leave them be. You'll be reprimed for speaking to me in such a way, Barksdale says to Amy. Reprimand me all you want. I'd like to survive this first. Cover your ears, Barksdale shouts, walking away towards the far end of the room. Stay put until you hear back from me. Thank you, Amy says, with fire in her voice. She then turns to me and says, better do what the man says. I have a feeling that high-pitched noise is probably keeping the creatures away, and that's why we keep hearing it. So let's go ahead and cover our ears. I clap my hands over my ears just in time to protect my hearing from a deafening blast. I can still feel my blood rushing out and wonder if this is what Dennis felt like in the beginning of his end. Before the sorrow of losing Dennis can consume me, something slaps against the wall and the room with tremendous force. I assume this is just another of the monsters slithering along the wall, but then I turn back towards the door. I hear something surprising. More bursts of a loud, explosive noise start ringing out. Looking through the peephole again, I see the core of one of the beasts explode. It vanishes into a puff of smoke and clear liquid. Looking to my left, I see Barksdale in a shooting stance at the far side of the room. He is firing through a small slit in the wall. He's using some high-powered weapon, and the likes of which I've never seen. Okay, so I was wrong. It's not the ringing sound. I see a slight movement as the gun kicks, accompanied by a flickering of white light. Immediately, another monster is downed, its tentacles flailing around aimlessly as most of its core is torn through. I instantly feel gratitude and an immense satisfaction in knowing that they're being picked off in such a way. So, I think we should rest. I think that's the best idea. We've been through a lot. I slide down against the door and simply wait, listening to the occasional patter of what I assume is their blood on the wall. I don't know how much time passes, but maybe 5 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, and I don't care. It feels nice to lay down. When the firing is over, I barely even notice it. Soon after, Barksdale walks back over to the other side of the room. They're all gone, Barksdale says, and I have resealed the hangar doors. How do you kill them like that? I ask. Classified weapons that, quite frankly, you have no business being near. Amy gets to her feet and returns to the pane on the wall. Thanks. How badly is the civilian hurt? Barksdale asks Amy, as if I'm not good enough for him to speak to. A nasty cut, Amy answers. If he gets some quick attention, he'll be okay. Okay, I'll have Strickland get a med kit. Strickland survived? Amy asks, sounding cheerful. Yes, and until you and your friends showed up, I thought we were the only ones. I thought we were the only ones. Hang tight, she's on her way. With that said, he retreats away to the back of the room, as if he can't stand to be around us. Amy approaches me and looks me over. You're in good hands. Strickland will be able to fix you up. Is she a doctor or something? Sort of. She's also a But oddly enough, she spent time as a trauma nurse in the army. Interesting. Is Strickland a friend of yours, I ask? Amy chuckles. Yeah, we've known each other for a while. The only women in a sea of overachieving men. Barksdale sounds like a prick, or you must be glad Strickland survived. Let's go with that one. Don't want to risk Barksdale overhearing us. I am. We usually have lunch together, she says, and she's helped me out of a few tight spots in my career. Within a few seconds, the door behind us opens and a woman appears from back further in the chamber. She enters the room with what looks like a small suitcase. She is dressed in a very basic and drab military getup, complete with holstered sidearms. My name is Connie Strickland, she says, getting straight to the point. I can patch you up pretty good, but it's going to hurt. I nod, honestly not caring how much it hurts. My God, I just want to get out of here, to get home. I sit down slowly and start unbuttoning my shirt. She has to help me slip it off. She has to help me slip it off my shoulders, but we manage. How bad is it? I ask. Bad, she said. It almost looks like a burn, but I've seen much worse. I might as well talk to Strickland, if only to distract myself from the pain. What's your story? You're a scientist too? Let's go with this one. You're a scientist too? Strickland rolls her eyes as she gathers up a needle and some thread. I was always into fringe science. I started in the labs where these eccentric Russian scientists were being funded by the US to work on combining DNA types. I sort of became obsessed with perfecting human psychology while I was a trauma nurse in the army. You were a mad scientist then, I say? I get that a lot, but no, not compared to the stuff we do here. What kind of stuff? I don't even want to know, because she's not going to tell us anyway. You sound like my mother, Strickland says. She wants to make sure I'm safe and cared for. She knows my job is sort of dangerous, but of course I can't tell her any details, so she just worries. Any other family? I ask. No, she says, as she works on me. I'm a workaholic, no husband, no kids. It's always just been my job. And until about a month ago, I loved it. What happened a month ago? That's when the teams here stumbled into what they thought was a big discovery, Amy says, answering for Strickland. Yeah, Strickland says. That big discovery resulted in a 22-hour workday. Into 22-hour workdays. I've been sleeping in my office for about a week now. When you guys ran in here, she says, I was horrified. Barrels out. I was horrified. Those barrels outside, and I'm not sure if you saw them. Well, if you shot them, it could have been bad. Why, I ask. The gray ones are filled with an experimental fuel that is highly flammable. The yellow one contains liquid nitrogen. What? I ask. Just laying around? Well, this area is the safest in the building, the most secure. Well, it used to be. Anyway. And take this, she says, handing me 4 pills. Painkillers. They won't work immediately, but they'll dull the worst of what you're feeling. Are these the best idea? I ask. Won't they make me dizzy or out of sort or something? All I get in response is an annoyed, determined look. Okay, fine, take the painkillers. I dry swallow the pills and she starts working on me. She slathers the wound with some sort of liquid that stings like crazy, and I gasp. And I gasp. I can talk. We're gonna suck it up and just grin and bear it. Because she's just gonna yell at us if we make any sound. Ready to stab me yet? Strickland asks. I'm fine, I hiss. I wince as she dabs at my eye, swollen from where Marcus kicked me. I grit my teeth in pain and try to catch my breath. The anticipation is the worst part. I'm relieved to find that it doesn't hurt as much as I feared. It's no picnic for sure, but compared to the fire-like pain in the wound, it's bearable. So you and Barksdale are the only survivors? Amy asks. It seems that way. Those that didn't disappear into the air were killed by those things, Strickland says, nodding to the secured doors. No one else made it? Clearly. Not that I've seen, Strickland says. If anyone else did make it, they're trapped out there with those things. I'm glad to see you. Where were you when it happened? Amy asks. I was in the micro lab on level 2, Strickland replies. Park and O'Brien were in there with me, and they just disappeared, I guess. It looked like they were being stretched, distorted, and then there was a ball of white light, and they were gone. The ball of light just the ball of light just inhaled everything that it touched. Would it leave a perfectly round hole? I ask, the light bulb turning on in my head. We saw some of those at the logging site. That was probably the same phenomenon, Strickland replies. Amy looks like a child, afraid to ask an adult for something. Finally, she asks, where did they go? We don't know, Strickland says. It could be an infinite number of different different dimensions, or even some dimension that merged and mixed together. It could also be a place that exists between dimensions. Barksdale calls it the void. How is that possible? I'd call it dead. Let's go this one. We don't know just yet, Strickland says. Our understanding of the spectrum is evolving, especially when you start warping it like we've been doing, Amy adds. That point seems to be the end of the conversation as both women fall quiet. I wince through the rest of Strickland's stitching, feeling the tug of my skin, but thankfully no more flowing blood. Finally, Strickland says, "You're good to go." I slide my shirt back on, aware of the thick pad of gauze that Strickland applied to my shoulder. So, have you and Barksdale been able to contain all of those creatures? Amy asks. Strickland appears shocked, clearly not the reaction Amy was expecting. Contain? Are you nuts? Do you not know what's happening? Amy's eyes widen in fearful confusion. What do you mean, what's happening? other than the initial experiment failure. The anomalies are becoming more numerous, the further and further from the source, Strickland says. The casual humor in her voice is now gone. That anomalies further from the source? Let's question the source, because clearly they're talking about the light things. From the location of the original experiment, she says. The experiment caused the first doorway to open, but it set off a chain reaction. They are gaining momentum along It seems these pockets of exotic matter and negative energy that are letting those things it seems these pockets of exotic matter and negative energy that are letting those things in. It's these, not seems. What the hell does that mean? I ask. It means, Amy chimes in, that those doorways and monsters are starting to appear all over the facility, maybe even the surface. Not yet likely, Strickland says, but the doorway will start appearing on the surface, and it won't stop there. The anomaly's reach could expand infinitely as far as we know. Those entities will appear on the surface in other states, other countries. Holy shit, I say. You mean the world is going to be overrun? The horror of the past few hours has made me ready to believe anything, but this is too much. Unfortunately, yes, Strickland says. My God, Amy says, stepping away. Isn't there anything we can do? There is the last resort, Strickland says, her eyes darting over to Barksdale at the back of the room. There's an emergency failsafe switch. What? Amy says. I've never heard of that. Where? You weren't cleared for it, Strickland replies. And that switch, Amy says, is a way to stop this? Yes, Strickland says, seeming uneasy with the conversation. Nobody's replied. Is he playing a game? It just says he's on that. Oh, now it says he's away. Fantastic. What does the switch do, or why haven't you hit the switch already? Let's go with what does the switch do. The switch is our eraser, she says. It destroys the entire facility and it terminates any systems or experiments that are being conducted. It's also an emergency shutdown for industrial travel. It puts an event horizon around the facility. What the hell is that? I ask. It's the perimeter of a black hole, she replies. The boundary inside which nothing can escape, not even light. But there's two problems with hitting the switch. So the first problem is we'd all be killed, sucked into the black hole before we'd have time to evacuate. The second reason, Strickland whispers, suddenly quiet, is Barksdale won't allow it. What? Amy gasps. Why not? He wants to allow those things to flood the surface. Thousands, millions would die. Strickland puts her hand up, silencing Amy. They both peer over to the far side of the room where Barksdale has his back turned. I know. He says he doesn't care. He says he'll be happy to be rid of the oversight so he can continue his work. The oversight, Amy almost screams, regaining control over her voice when Strickland gives her another look of warning. You mean our government? I ask. He's aware this could disrupt, even topple our government. And he doesn't care? Strickland sighs. Barksdale is, well, He's off the range right now. He's gone rogue, and he's armed. This comment makes me look towards the shotgun I brought in with me. I'd nearly forgotten it in the last few moments. While Barksdale has his back turned to us, I take it in my hand and slide it behind me. Just in time, too, as Barksdale walks over from the back room to our side of the chamber. He gives Strickland a suspicious look before speaking to her. Is the civilian going to survive? He asks. Yes, he's stitched up and good to go, Strickland replies. That's good news, Barksdale says. I'm sitting right here, I say sarcastically. You can actually speak to me, you know. Amy, it's quite nice to see that you have survived, he says. Were there any others? The aloof way this asshole is talking to us is getting under my skin. A guy named Marcus that works on the first level from IT, Amy says. That's all I know for sure. Marcus Pabscott, Barksdale says. Where is he? We're not sure, I say. He was separated from us. Oh, Barksdale replies, clearly taken aback by my stern reply. That's unfortunate. Barksdale seems to think about something and then looks directly at me. You're with the logging crew, aren't you? Remind me, how did you get here again? We were trying to get away from here. We fell through a hole. Let's go through. We fell through a hole. Right. We lost our primary power source when the experiment failed, Barksdale says. The experiment failure created those exotic matter pockets, the hole you fell into. And if there were enough of them, it may have opened a way into the facility, depending on the power source that power sources that were demanded. Barksdale continued. It could have also shut down the locking systems before backups kicked in. Everything is starting to make sense now. From the very start, it had seemed peculiar that we'd been so easily able to walk into a place like this. Let's ask where our crew is. We haven't talked about them in a while. Your crew? Barksdale asks. Frank and Joe? They're gone. Gone? Gone where? I ask, my voice trembling. Hearing him speak the names of my crew enrages me. They were inhalated by antimatter pockets created during the failure. A bright ball of light. In the aftermath, all you'd see would be a round hole in the ground. Barksdale says this like he's sharing yesterday's sports scores. I let my face crumble into my hands, and I had suspected this all this time, and they were already dead. It will cause the experiment to fail. Your crew hit one of our main power lines. We weren't sure exactly how, but we knew that's what did it. You're trying to blame all this on me, I roar. The timing was unfortunate, Barksdale says. So, Amy asks, what do we do now? Now it's time to continue our work, Barksdale says calmly, turning away to the instrument on the wall and to the instrument near the wall. I want to yell he's insane, but the fact that he's insane makes me not want to yell that he's insane. But at the same time, he just kind of casually, nonchalantly just told us that our crew members were dead. Let's start an argument. You want to keep your little toys to yourself, I say. My teeth clenched, and you're willing to unleash those monsters on the world to do it. Indeed, Barksdale says. I want to continue my work. Other researchers will eventually discover what we have, sure. But I want it to be me. This is my laboratory. These are my experiments. The work I've led here will earn me a place in history. And quite frankly, I don't need to explain it to you. Up on the surface, they'll struggle to defend themselves since they won't know what they're dealing with. I have the necessary weapons. After a few months, who knows? Maybe I'll decide the world is ready for me to help them, and we'll go from there. Strickland steps up directly behind me and whispers into my ear. I wouldn't push him, she says. He's usually very logical, but this whole thing has pushed him somewhere else. He's well off. He turns his back to us as he says that. He turns his back to us as he says this, walking to the far side of the chamber, like we're some kind of distraction. Amy takes the opportunity to whisper to us. We need to hit that switch, she says. It's the only option. That what he's saying is a murder, treason, genocide. She looks over to Strickland for support, trailing off. But Strickland looks at the ground, clearly torn. She won't look anyone in the eye, and it makes an effort not to look at Barksdale. He seems distracted with whatever instrument he's studying on the far side of the room. A dreamlike quantity of it. The dreamlike quantity I experienced earlier is wearing off. The painkillers seem to be losing their edge. Strickland finally whispers a response. Even if we decide that we want to hit that switch, Barksdale won't allow us. To hell with him, or you can figure something out, right?